Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another broadcast. And let's back up a moment. Um, I want to take a bit of time, just a few minutes, to speak about the broadcast yesterday and the way it was cut short, with me once more forgetting to set alarms. Now, there are a few people who probably think I'm a muppet, me included, for doing that. And comments like, why don't you just stick a sticker on your screen or have an alarm set, etc. And I can do all those things, and to a certain extent I do, but I still get so caught up in the action that I forget to do what I'm supposed to do. But I want to explain why and why it's such a big struggle for me. Um, some very kind comments have come in from my coverage with ZMS, where me having to jump on the bicycle in order to turn the pedals is not an issue. I never had to do it. And the broadcast went smoothly. And I think I did rather well. And so does Damon. Hence, he's asking me back for more work in the future. But I want to explain on a personal level why I'm struggling so much. I have two main problems in my life. Well, I have more, but two main problems that affect what I'm doing now, this kind of work. And it's something which not a lot of people are prepared to talk about, but I am, and I'm going to do so now. I suffer from a very debilitating illness, and that's severe depression. And for me, cycling and particularly working like I do here with broadcasting and this lot is a way of me coping with my illness, because it basically gives me something to do to take my mind off um, the problems associated with my illness. And if it makes me feel good about myself, which it does, cycling is exercise and always makes me feel good about myself. But so does doing something for the community, like broadcasting, as I do. So that helps me with my illness, which is a big problem. And it's also an issue because I have to try and put everything together with the children and make sure that the children don't suffer. And I keep generally myself upbeat for the children as well. So that's the benefit of me taking part in exercise and me doing what I do. But there's another issue, and it's one that I almost never speak about, and that's that I have a second illness, and that's short-term memory problems. And I can put a sticker on my screen saying set an alarm, and unless I do it immediately, I can forget. Um, I People that know me well know I have this issue because they'll realize that they've told me something one moment and I'll ask them a question about what we've just discussed the next. It is a major problem for me, and it's one which I try to solve by making lists and by doing things. But unless I have a clear plan and I follow a script, I really struggle at times. Not always. This is the kind of illness which those that know what I'm talking about will realize it doesn't affect you 100% of the time, but you're never quite sure when it is going to take effect. And anyway, that's all I wanted to say. I wanted to ask you to show a little bit of forgiveness and try to explain why I am struggling as much as I do. Um, I'm also in a position where, after the ZMS broadcasts and showing that I can do the work, I really wish that I could be recognised as a broadcaster, and the need for me to jump on the bike every 30 minutes taken away, because that would solve all the issues well, not all, but certainly a lot of the issues I have. And so we've asked RGT, is that possible? And we'll see what their response is. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Now we're going to crack on with the broadcast. I'm going to try and cover as much as I can of the lunchtime running of the race. So we'll see what happens. My wife may pick up the girls. I won't know just yet, but she'll message me. And if she does, then it means that I can cover the complete race. And if not, it means I have to dash out and pick them up. So let's get on to the news anyway. There's a little bit to discuss. Yesterday was a storming day for the racing, in as much as John Beams totally destroyed the field and extended his lead to the point where you can probably see from the breaking news on screen. The tour basically is his now, unless he has a major mishap or unless something really goes wrong. And I can't see that happening. So I'm going to show you the GC on screen. And here you can see that John now has an 18-minute gap over Daniel, who is still maintaining his second place. And Daniel is still putting in good performances, but I think you'll agree it's pretty hard to motivate yourself when your main challenger, who's taken over the lead from you, is devastating you every single time he leaves the starting pen. So all credit to Daniel for sticking with it, but his head must be dropping a little. However, he's still managing to hold off Jonathan Stevens in third place, as you can see, and he's got a tidy gap. He's got a 13-minute gap, so I don't see that changing, and I think the 1, 2, 3 is going to stay as is, because Jojo Rusinek is 10 minutes behind in fourth place. But that's where the real excitement with this last stage is going to be, because I'm going to show you a graphic shortly about what Wouter was up to earlier on in the day. But the battle from fourth to eighth place is pretty amazing. You can see the time gaps, you can see it's pretty close, and I think that could change around today, and Wouter could be chasing that fourth spot. So we'll see what happens. The ladies competition, if you look further down the field, you can see that Alyssa, 21 in general classification, but she's head and shoulders above the rest of the ladies in terms of the time gap. Not in terms of performances, but in terms of the time gap, Alyssa has really done what she needed to do to pull out a very, very commanding 38-minute lead. With Linda Yinder in second place and Anne Y holding on to her third spot. So we have had other ladies taking part, but they haven't completed enough stages to affect this general classification. Okay, let's move on from that graphic, and we'll show you what happened yesterday then. So the men's podium was taken by John Beams in first place, but Wouter put in a superb ride to close up on John and take second place. So with Jojo, he overtook Jojo. It was a close race, but he overtook Jojo at the end. And therefore, I think he's going to try and do the same today, but he needs to take a little bit more time out of Jojo in order to leapfrog him. So that's going to be an exciting battle, and I, for one, can't wait. It should be pretty exciting. Okay, let's have a look at what happened in the ladies then yesterday. So let's take that one off screen, and where are we with the ladies? Here we go. So Elisa actually overtook Joe yesterday on the road, and that was quite nice to see, putting in a really good effort. So she really does deserve and earn her top place amongst the ladies. Yesterday, Joe finished second and Linda finished third. And that rounds up the ladies' podium from the 9th stage. So if we have a look and have a look at the age category results, that makes for an interesting graphic because here you can see Wouter, who's in the A1 category, took took the lead in that competition yesterday with a 1 hour and 7 minute ride. But he still lost 4 minutes to John in the A category with a 1 hour and 3 minute ride. So just over 4 minutes. And of course, Franco's Iker came in, I think, in fourth place yesterday, not far behind Paul, behind Wouter in second place. Timo had a good ride yesterday with a 109 in the B category. Down in the C category, Peter Buckwavo and Timo were battling it out. Peter just got the better of Timo yesterday, but that's going to be a battle which is going to continue today, and we'll see what happens. And you can see from the graphic that Giorgio Rusinek in the D category got the better of both of Timo and Peter. So I think everything to play for. Niels Bo Sonderg in the E category fell behind a little yesterday and may struggle to make up that time today, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. So some interesting dynamics at play. 4th to 8th place will just bring up the GC again, as you can see here. So from Giorgio all the way down to Timo, I think Niels Sonderg won't mind me saying he's out of it now. So it's really between those four, and I think two main battles. Giorgio and Wouter are going to battle it out because there's only a minute between them. But there's only seconds, literally seconds, between Lee Marshall and Peter Brook-Varvel. But Timo isn't out of it either, with 5 minutes gap to make. Well, 4.5 minute gap to make up. So we'll see what happens. Makes for some exciting racing later on, both this afternoon and this evening. Okay, let's have a look at what's facing them then by having a look at the stage 10 profile. And here you can see that they've got another long stage, 27.3 kilometers. They've got 1,141 meters of climbing, and it's a 7% grade. But I gather from listening to some of the riders and watching the comments, it's a nice downhill finish today. So once they get over that final hill, which is going to take some doing, they do have a nice fast finish. And we may well see some breaks with people trying to get over the top of that hill first and get a good gap on the downhill. You can see from the breaking news that Daniel Schock is currently leading with a 1 hour and 6 minute ride. But I would expect, and Wouter finished only 100th of a second behind him. So Wouter Klaes has already ridden 1 hour and 6 minutes, and he finished 100th of a second behind Daniel Schock in first place. So I would have loved to have seen that, actually. I wish I could have, if I hadn't had the girls taking them to school, I would have watched that. Anyway, so we're looking at quite a tidy battle now. It'll be interesting to see what the riders do in this lunchtime running and who's actually turning up for it, if any of the main contenders. I suspect not. I suspect that the main contenders are going to wait until this evening and want to ride with all the big hitters. And that's where it's going to be decided. And you never know, Wouter could, in fact, decide to just tag along tonight and have a look and see what happening. He doesn't have to race it because he's already set a fabulous time. But he could decide to turn up tonight and see what happens. And I've just noticed that Timo Achem, is actually riding in this lunchtime running of the race. So he needs to get a good time. So we'll get an idea to see whether he can close up any of the gaps this lunchtime. Interesting. Okay. We've got 13 minutes to go before the start of the race, and I'm trying to fill in now because I haven't really prepared a lot of news. Excuse me. And that's really because we've got the long news. Well, I'm saying long news show. We're going to have an extended news show tomorrow after everything is done and finished tonight. We'll put together a package and we're going to have a bit of a show tomorrow, wrapping up the whole week with some highlights and hopefully with a couple of guests arriving to speak about the tour. I'm hoping James and Paul Nichols will say a few words, and your winner John Beam will fire me over a bit of a message as well. Excuse me. Yes. Oh. And yeah, I think it should make for a good program tomorrow. We'll also have the £252 live draw, the spinning wheel tomorrow. Well, that's a point. We haven't had that yet, have we? So that's something I can do next. We can run the spinning wheel. Bear with me, folks, and let's just close that down. Can we get the spinning wheel up on screen? I'll just see if I can get it up on screen. As we go. And I'll transition across to you folks in a moment. Website links, and we click on that. Let's have a look. Let's choose website link. That one. Yeah, there we go. Okay, let's make it full screen. Full screen. There we go. Is that going to show now? Glitchy, glitchy, glitchy. Come on. Why is that not showing on screen? Oh, sometimes, I love this software. It is so buggy. It was up on screen a moment ago, but now it's not. So let's see if we can't refresh the Google page and find it. Oh, yes. And Google. Yes, we've got it. There we go. So transition this across. Oh, the pleasures of live streaming. There's a lot to it, folks. Those of you that think I am a muppet, and I'll admit a lot of the time I am, this is hard work. This requires a lot of planning, a lot of preparation, and it doesn't always go smoothly, no matter how much you practice. But here we go. We're going to run the live stream. You should be able to watch it on screen. Let's go for it. There we go. XE Socks were the sponsors. Here's your spinning wheel. And who's going to take the win for stage 9? It was run last night after the event. There's a spinning wheel. Come close to Linda. Oh, didn't quite make it. Lee Marshall. Congratulations, Lee. You'll be contacted by our team and put in touch with Hexy Socks, who will provide you with some lovely cycling socks. So, enough of that fun. Let's close that down now and get back to the action. Get that off screen and transition back across. There we go. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go live to the action. So I'm going to transition across to the live stream and hopefully have a look. How many have we got on? We've got 12 riders at the moment. Let's turn it around and see who's on the line. Siachen is there. Gray, Western. So we've got a few of the riders lower down the category taking part in this. You can see it's a downhill start. It doesn't look it from this thing, but if I just level it up a little bit for you. So it's a slightly downhill start and then it quickly kicks up into the first bit of climbing. So this is going to be a fast start. we got plenty of time to talk about it with 8 minutes to go before the start. I did think I'd start my broadcast a little bit early today because I did want to cover you know, the personal bit. And while it might not, some people might think it's not appropriate. I think it's important to let people know exactly what's going on. So we've got one OTR rider on the line. The got a moon rider in Atchem, of course. Oh, it's Paul Pudell, the OTR rider. We've got an SDW. Mike Weston is there representing SDW. Got in fact we've got a second. We've got Daniel from OTR turned up, so got two OTR boys on the line. Yes, Paul, I am here. Thank you. I don't know if you can hear me. What I'll do is I will message you. Let's and let's wish everybody luck as well. So I don't often type out messages while I'm in the broadcast, purely and simply because it takes my eyes off the screen, and I could actually miss something else that's going on. So I tend not to use the messenger within screen, and also I'm also answering the YouTube messages. So to have both on screen and be responding to both could get a little bit mixed up. So I tend not to use the RGT messaging when I'm broadcasting, but sometimes I will if I've got the time. Hope everybody has their glass of champagne in hand, says Mike. I'm looking forward to this race, because not only is it going to showcase the final stage of the tour, but we've got some good riders lined up this lunchtime. So this should be a good race. Quite often I know I covered a couple of these lunchtime slots, and it's been sort of like um, just running through it, so to speak. And that's not denigrating the riders. That's just the way it's felt. But today feels like there's going to be some battles going on here that are going to affect the overall. I mean, Timo needs to put in a good ride here. Gray needs to put in a good ride here. To sort of like cement the places in the GC. So, yeah. As Newnham tells us that he's in Spain at the moment, so having Cava. As I say, I'm really looking forward to this, and let's check my messages and see whether my wife is going to pick up the children or whether I'm going to have to leave. Would be really nice if I can cover the whole event. And the only reason why I struggle with this lunchtime slot, folks, is I wouldn't normally be broadcasting at this time, but because it's OTR's own premium tour, I told James that I would try and do the best I can in terms of additional coverage. I already volunteered to work on the ZMS streams for 3 of the stages. I would have done more if I'd been asked. I absolutely loved it. But I'm also planning on working with Damon now in the future as well on more stuff, not just OTR, but more broadcasting, which is going to give me more experience and more confidence. And as I explained earlier, that is very, very important. So I like to give something back, but also I have to be mindful that I have to do something for myself as well. So it's great fun. I love it. And covering these lunchtime slots, although sometimes I've only been able to do it for 30 minutes, and you understand why, I've really enjoyed it. The new segments are becoming more polished. We're still, still not there yet. There's still a lot that can be done. When I've got a little bit more time and I'm not actually broadcasting every day like I am at the moment, I'll have time to automate a lot of what you're seeing happening on screen. And once I can do it with the push of a button, bringing up images and like the spinning wheel and this lot, just by pressing a button, it'll just make it so much more uh, fluid and so much more error free. Because whenever you put the human element in, you potentially bringing errors into the streaming. And I want to try and cut down as much as we can to make it more professional. But it's early days yet. I mean, we've only been doing this a couple of weeks, and uh, already I'm increasing my viewership on YouTube. Thank you very much to those that are subscribing. I could do with more if you want to help us out and grow the channel. And hitting that like button helps a lot because it helps me rank in the YouTube system. So you can do that as well. And we've got a free hour rider just appeared on the line, which is nice to see. My old team. Don't know who it is yet, but no doubt we'll find out once the race gets underway and I can highlight them. And I have to jump on the bike, and I have set alarms prior to actually coming into the studio today. So hopefully the alarms will go off. But I don't think an alarm would have helped me yesterday because I was just so engrossed in what I was doing. I didn't expect it to be as exciting as it was off the line. Yesterday's stage was very, very good. Very, very good. Yeah, good luck to everybody that are fighting for the GC places, of which there are a few. So this promises to be a nice event. And I, for one, am definitely looking forward to this. So I'm going to jump on the bike, folks, and then I'll catch the action as soon as I can. Here we go. Make sure that my wattage is registering. That on there. Go. Yeah, I think we're underway there. So let's. Okay, you can see I'm still going because we're going downhill, but let's get to the front. As we can see, Miller from SDW, Southern District Wheelers, and he's got a teammate just in front of him. But there, who's that? Paul Pudell from OTR running off the front. Hang my head. So let's spin the camera around and have a look and see what's happening on this first bit of the climb. We've got more or less the main group together, although it's fracturing a little bit towards the back. But I'd expect on this first section here, it eases off in a few meters. So I'd expect this all to come back together again. Unless, of course, we get somebody really pushing the pace on the front, and then maybe it will split. But they've got to settle in because there's a lot of steep climbing today. The profile really doesn't tell you the full story because the first part of it looks relatively easy, but I can assure you these steep sections really tell on the rider's legs, and then they go into a less steep section, but then it ramps up again. There is a bit of recovery after a few kilometers, as you can see, but then you're back into this horrible red section, and That's going to be very telling. That's where the main action, I believe, is going to happen. Going to go back to the front and see what's happening as we got Timo leading the group out, and they have distance. They have actually gapped that group behind. I thought they might come back together, but no, they're having none of it because Timo's setting a pretty big pace here, 5 watt kilos off the front. I mean, he's a very strong rider. So from Moon Riders, he's setting the pace with Paul Pudell there with him, and Paul is a class climber as well. So yeah, no surprise that they've opened up a gap. Although I did think that the group following on behind would realise that this is what they were going to do and have pushed that a little bit to try and stay with them. So now they're into the second second main hill for a little while. I'm going to start working my way back down the pack and see what's happening. And then we'll catch up with these fellows at the front as we see Paul just doing his turn on the front. But they are pushing the pace up. They are putting in high wattage. Daniel was putting in 5 watt kilos there as well. You got Sonderg, he's a strong rider. Suhad, of course. And these are all riders who are on GC fighting against each other. So obviously they're gonna be pushing as hard as they can. But let's work his way back through the field because I want to find out what's happening behind them. Watch Cervelo, Gray, Weston at the back of the group with his teammate. And then Taylor's just been distanced by 15 meters. So if he's going to hang, he's going to have to close that gap. He can't let that go out to over 20 meters. Otherwise, he's probably not going to get back on. Holding it at 15 at the moment. Yeah, he's really trying, is the lad. But it's so hard to pull back a gap once you get dropped. And we call this burning matches. I mean, if we look at it from his view, oh, there we go. You can see that he is getting back on, and well done, Taylor. It's a good effort, mate. And there he goes. And now what he needs to do, you see these two riders at the back? There's this little gap in front of them. He needs to jump in front of them and get on the wheel of the guys in front. He doesn't want to stay where he is. But that's often the tendency. When you catch a rider, you often ease up a little bit, and then, you know, so easy to get dropped once again. He needs to follow this rider that's just come past him and get up there. Because if another rider drops off, and case in point, Weston, if Weston drops back slightly, then you're going to drop back with him and you're going to get dropped by the main group. So this is all basic racecraft. I mean, I can speak, but it's easier said than done. Trust me on that. These fellas are obviously working as hard as they can. But what I'd be looking to do here is get into the middle of the pack rather than staying, towards the back on the wheels. But easier said than done. Let's put it that way. And here you can see Hayes now has been gapped because he's got a 140-meter gap. You can just see the rider going around the bend at the top of the climb in front of him. So Hayes has been gapped with Newnham on his wheel. And then these two have got a little bit more of a gap on the rider behind, which is Potter. Now Potter could well catch them. He's putting in good wattage, could well catch them, but we'll see what happens. He's bringing the gap down slowly. He's obviously a different weight to the guys in front because he's not matching their wattage yet. He's still closing. Say that he's holding it steady at the moment. Now, this is our first lady on the road, Jo Dowles, and she's been putting in some amazing performances, and particularly she's doing well on the climbs. So she's a very strong climber in her own right. It's really good to see. And here she has a chance of putting in a good time before tonight's ride where the rest of the ladies may well go. So we'll see. I don't know if there's any more ladies riding this time. And the rider from 3R is Sanchez, who's a rider I'm not familiar with. He's a new recruit for Team 3R here over on RGT. Wasn't with the team when I was with Team 3R a few weeks ago, so he's a relatively new recruit. Looks strong. Goes past the lock. And these riders further down the field are purely and simply fighting for places. What they'll do is they'll target either somebody in front of them, or they'll try to hold off another rider chasing behind them. And it's a personal battle between them, as you can see from these three. They'll all be vying for position, trying to maintain their own pace while not losing ground to other riders around them. So tough ask. You can see Pierce has been gapped by 50 metres from the three riders in front. And his goal will be to try and close that gap. But he might just have to ride at his own pace and see what happens. Paul, he's a long way behind Pierce now, so he can't even see him on the road. So he's just riding at his own pace. And similar thing goes for Leendo. He's 430 metres behind the rider in front. So he's going to be riding solo for a good while, because there's nobody chasing him really within any great distance. I can see from the graphic that we have additional riders who appear to be stuck at the start, haven't even started. Punav and Silver. Now Silver's a Team 3R rider I've seen before, but he's not even started. You can see it's showing me at 1 kilometer 32 because of that downhill. Because I started and I rode down the downhill, that's why I'm in front of them. But they didn't even start. Okay, let's go to the front. Enough whittling about me at the back. And as I expected, on this first climb, I did expect the group to sort of like be together, or at least a small portion of the group to be together. And how many riders have we got there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We got 9 riders in this front section. So there they are, the riders. In fact, we got 8 riders. With the 2 strong boys, and they do look the 2 strongest at the moment, Timo and Paul Podell, look to be by far the strongest riders. Tavello having to burn a match to get back on the wheel if he can. Just stay with him and see whether he can. He's putting in a good effort here. 6.3 watt kilos. Yeah. But are they going to distance him as it gets slightly easier? No, I think he's going to get, yeah, he is. He's going to get back in. Now, remember, folks, this is the important catch. When he catches, he doesn't want to go through like that. Okay? Generally, you want to try. I mean, that's not a bad tactic, but basically, what I would have done in that situation was just dropped into the middle of the pack. I would have timed my effort and dropped into the middle of the pack and done a little bit of recovery, because they're going to catch you. Look, they're going to catch you. So yeah, now stay in the pack. Don't get off the front. Stay in the pack. Use good racing tactics. Shouldn't be going off the front if you've just made an effort to get back to the pack. But to be fair, it does look like the riders are sharing leads. They all look to be doing equal work. So nobody's really taking advantage here and like not working. They all look to be taking a turn, swapping through and off, which is what you would expect. As we see Merlot, the 9th rider on the road, he's now being gapped by 500 and it's going up to 600 meters. So he's not going to rejoin the front group, or that I'm pretty confident of. So the best, in fact, I was just about to say, the best thing he can do is try and stay with the riders fast coming up. Get on the wheel here and try and stay with these riders, and then take turns with these other two, Weston and Suad. Mike's obviously listening to me. He's giving me a wave. So yeah, just stay with these two, and don't forget, Weston and Suhad have got their own personal battle going on. So they'll be wanting to see what kind of time gaps they can eke out between each other, but not at this stage. At this stage, they're just looking to stay together and help each other as much as they can, and then they'll battle it out on that big red section that you can see. I don't think we're going to see any big gaps on the first little bit of red that you can see before that middling section of green and orange. We might see somebody trying to break there, but I think the big breaks are going to happen on the longest section of climbing. That would be what I would be targeting if I was able to stay with the riders. Let's see what's happening behind us. We've got Hayes and Newnham now working together. And this makes perfect sense, as I've explained previously. Just, you know, you don't want to really be riding on your own if you can help it. You want to be working with at least one other rider. Riding solo is no fun, as Mr. Potter will attest to. Hard work being in no man's land. And he is in no man's land. He's 870 metres behind Hayes and Newnham, and he's 350 metres in front of Joe Dawes. So it doesn't make any sense for him to slow down. It doesn't make any sense for him to. I mean, he's working above threshold there, but he's going to be in no man's land for a good section. As we see Joe, who's putting in, good wattage even on the downhills. So I'm very, very impressed with this lady. I've watched it. Look, she's going into threshold there. I've watched her a fair bit, and she always seems to be giving it 110%. I mean, going into threshold on a sort of like 2, 5, 7% downhill. That takes a lot of strength, a lot of hard work. So well done, Joe. Nice to see. We watched the 3-hour rider Sanchez facing. Now he's got a 700-meter gap to make up to Joe. So and you can see he's not really pushing as hard as we saw Joe doing on the downhill section. He's just sort of like coasting along. So having said he hits 20 kilos, what was that all about? That was a power spike, we call it. And then we have Claude. M in brackets stands for Masters, so Claude's in the Masters category. Lock on his wheel now. These two need to stay together and just work a little bit until they get back to the climbs. Just stay together through and off. Try and pull back a bit of distance on Sanchez in front of you by working together. Yes. He could potentially catch the two riders in front. Got his work cut out to do so. He's working hard enough. 4 kilos. So could come back to them. The pole, no man's land still. Liendo on the 8, almost 9% section of the climb. So, and at the moment he's Lantern Rouge because the rider behind is a ZMS cam. So we have Lantern Rouge, Liendo. Back at the front, how many have we got in the front group now? One. Yeah, okay, let's work his way through this group because it's changed around a little bit. So we spin the camera around and have a look, see what's happening on the road. Yeah, you can see climb is taking its toll because we've got two riders now off the back. Third one dropping off as well. So we'll work his way through this group and see who they are. But you've got Daniel from OTR on the front and Timo. Then we got Sonderg and Savello, the fourth rider. Just a small gap to Taylor. Taylor can close that up if he puts in an effort. Then you've got Gray dropping off. Now he's 80 meters behind the guys up front. So that goes over 20 meters, he's going to struggle. I always on these type of steep climbs, and here you can see it's ramped up to 15.3%, probably going to get steeper, 15.2. So you can see that he's not actually closing the gap on the leaders now. And when it gets to this kind of steep, anything over 10%, I generally reckon that a 20-meter gap is pretty difficult to pull back. Not impossible, but pretty difficult for riders lower down the field. Obviously, a rider like John Beams or Daniel Cadiz, 20 meters is nothing because they have the power in reserve to be able to put in a bigger effort. But these riders, if they were to put in maximal effort, they would pay for it later in the climb. At least I assume they would. As we watch Miller from Southern District Wheelers. 10.3% section. Now I did say there was some evil sections in this route, and the 15.3% that you saw there, I think is topped later on in the ride. So but nothing surprises me anymore. Looks like it's going to get really steep here as it climbs this wall. 0.5, 7, 9, 14. Yeah, it looks, might be easing slightly now as it goes up to 15. There we go. Oh, this is just 15.5, 6. Okay, I'm going to stop counting. This is just. The riders will be glad that this tour is finishing, I'll tell you, because I've seen some of the comments in the forums. There's Paul, and Paul is a recognised climber, so I would expect him to do well on the steeper section. Yeah. Zoom out a little bit and see what's happening with the rest of the field. Let's go up the front of them, Gray. Look at this group are still staying together, and Taylor has rejoined them, which is nice to see. But as I said, I don't expect this climb to be the one that really sorts them out. I think the breaks really are going to be made on the next climb. So Timo sort of like is really pushing the pace on the front, but I think they'll stay together because they've got that nice section of green and orange coming up. I expect this group will stay together. Too hard. He's now dropped to 240 meters behind. Let's change the camera view again. See Mike Weston just third spot in these three riders, but not far behind. So they have yet to attack the deeper section. Watch Murlock going fast. And sure enough, Mike has caught too hard. So They're having their own personal battle. Is and you could see Newnham behind him in the distance, but uh, a good distance behind now, 80 meters. So yeah, Joe has joined Sanchez, or Sanchez has joined Joe, so they could do well to work off each other. But that's hard to do when you're going up, an almost 10% slope. You generally settle into your own pace, as Joe is doing. Three riders in a row here: Claude, Pearson, Locke. And again, they're on the 12.9% section, so they're just going to be finding their own pace while trying to maintain the visual carrot in front of them, or mindful of the rider behind them. Sorry about the trees. This particular skin, this European skin, I've explained before, it's not quite as open as the regular RGT, or the first RGT skin. And while it looks probably a little bit more pretty, it's actually very difficult to keep moving the camera around because of the trees, as you can see there. Trees, there's so many of them, they obliterate the view a lot of the time. But it is a nice skin. I do like it. It's just I don't think I think they should have used the other one for this particular stage, because you would have seen the cliffs and the mountains. I think that just looks better when you're climbing this kind of altitude. Just a personal thing. I mean, Paul Nichols has done a wonderful job with this tour and the courses. He's done all the courses for this tour. Um, and while some people might say, well, he's made them all a bit too hard, this tour is going to be remembered because by a good margin, it's the hardest tour that we've yet had. Let's have a look at the time. 24. Should be going off in a minute or so. But yeah, this is by far the hardest tour that we've had on RGT. There we go. There's the alarm. I'll jump on the bike. I need to message my wife and see whether she's picking the children up, whether I can continue commentary, or whether I have to run away. Joys of being a family man, which I love, by the way. Watch Leandro on the downhill section. That looks nice, doesn't it? Oh, you must be loving that. 14% downhill. Whee! Yep, lovely. And there's the ZMS camera. So let's get back to the front. And Timo is still leading them out, but Sonderg is not letting him go. Yeah. Yeah, and they're likely to stay together now until they hit the climb. So there's a sharp bump here coming up any moment, but then we're back into the green section. There we go, 6%, 7, whatever. Over this bump, and then they're into a small flattish downhill section, and then the real climb start. And that, to my mind, is where this group will fracture, and they'll fracture big time. 5 riders at the moment, but I genuinely think we're going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. I don't see 2 riders staying to the finish together to the finish. I just don't. Not with what's at stake. I could be wrong. They could decide, okay, we'll battle it out in the final sprint, but I can't see that happening somehow. They've come too far, and Going to see the strongest rider, get my words out, the strongest rider prevail today. That's looking like Timo at the moment, but we'll see what happens when he gets to the steep climb. Is he able to keep it going, or is somebody under going to overtake? I don't know. Let's wait and see. And what I am going to do is zoom in a bit and see if we can get rid of the. Here we go. Follow the action for a little while. Make the most of this easy section, folks, because very shortly you're going to get into the really steep. And yes, we can see that Sonderg is wanting to try and make a statement. Bello wearing the GBR white and red jersey. He's looking strong as well. So Sonderg and Timo are fighting it out on GC, so I would expect Timo to put in a bit of an effort to pull him back here. I don't think he's just going to let him go. But already Sonderg has got a 32-meter gap. Looking very strong. Timo, if he's going to do anything about this, needs to react. Don't think they can leave it till later in the climb. I think they've got to react. Okay, I'm going to go quiet for a few moments, folks, because I just have to check my message happening. Okay, the good news is that I'm going to stay with the broadcast now until the finish. So my good lady is going to pick up the children, so I can stay with the broadcast. And not have to dash away. And we can see that Timo is actually closing the gap now on Sonderg. All right, it's still at 40 meters, but you can clearly see on the road that he's trying to close this down. It's no longer going out. He's pegging it at the moment as we get Taylor pretty close on his wheel. You can swing around there. You can see, and even Savello. So this is a bit of a surprise to me. I did expect these riders to more or less be distancing each other, and that may still happen. But at the moment, second, third, and fourth are within sort of 10 meters of each other. Show you that on screen. Look, there we go. So you can see that there's very little in it, but they're still keeping an eye. That's a good view, please. They're still keeping an eye on Sonderg in front, and particular Timo. So this is an interesting battle. Good work being put in here by the riders. Went around that 12% hairpin. But you see what I mean about the scenery, folks? It's really nice, isn't it? It's three-line cobbled roads. But that's more a Belgium thing than a Swiss thing. The other skin shows mountainsides and cliffs, and I think that would have been better suited for this. I do like the stone walls though at the sides of they look nice. As we get these riders coming together, and these two are teammates, Taylor and is it Taylor and Atcham in the same jerseys? Not Taylor, Savello. But Sonderg, yeah, he pulled it out to 55 meters, but now it's been clawed back by 10 meters, and it's holding at the moment at 45. So, this is an interesting battle. Hard to tell whether the riders, because they're not going into threshold at the moment, and it's hard to tell whether the riders are holding back, pacing their effort. I mean, what's a little bit concerning for me here, and I mentioned this the other day, I don't know whether Sonderg has a faulty heart rate monitor or not, but a lot of the time it just doesn't seem to be working. I'm pretty sure he's not going to be going up a 10% slope and his heart rate is going to be 118, 119. If it is, then he's an extremely fit individual, which could be the case. But that just seems like, he's putting in almost 5 watt-kilos and 121 heart rate. Those two just don't measure for me. So, whereas you can see Timo's heart rate 175, which is, all right, that's on the high end, but we don't know what his maximum. And his maximum could be 200 or so. But that's on the high end, and that's what I would expect to see from somebody that's just climbed a 10% slope or more. As we go under that red banner, folks, is the halfway banner. Yeah, so 175 beats a minute is what you would expect. And again, Taylor, who's now on the flat, his is dropping now because he's on the easier ground. But even his was at 160. So Daniel, who's just finished the steeper section at 171. So what I'm trying to say is 121 for Sonderg just doesn't sort of seem to fit with the other riders, and I think he needs to have a look at that and see what the issue is, because I'm pretty sure it's not reporting his correct heart rate. Right, we're going up the 10%er. I mean, heart rate, you can see Gray here is he's not sort of like pushing the high heart rate, but there could be many reasons for that. Why he is still higher than Sonderg at 140s, climbing slightly, but heart rate doesn't tell the full story. It just gives us commentators a bit of a guide, and being an ex-coach also, I do have some impression of heart rate ranges for different rider styles. I can generally watch them for a little while and work something out. I've coached enough riders in my back in the day. Miller from SDW going under the halfway banner. And I'm surprised to see Paul not wearing a heart rate monitor. But to be fair to the lad, he's not really challenging for the overall or podium spot. He's lower down the field. It would still be nice to see him wearing a heart rate monitor, especially seeing as he's an OTR rider and we promote Ride Fair. which is basically making sure that you are verified on the platform. And heart rate monitor is one of the tools. Sending videos, the Facebook page Ride Fair is another way of verifying your performance. You know, you take a video of your weigh-in, you can show your bike setup, make sure you're not using an e-bike, which I know for a fact, at least 2 or 3 riders on RGT that are using e-bikes. I can say that quite confidently from watching the data. So, and it's something I'm going to do a program on in the very near future. I'm going to be doing a YouTube, let's call it a documentary. Basically going to be showing folks how easy it is to game a system. And I'm going to be speaking to some of the better riders on the platform who are verified. But that's for another day. As we watch my Queston and Hayes riding together. Unum a good 450 meters behind them. Looks like Sanchez has managed to distance Joe Dolch. There's Joe. She'll be just settling into her own pace, seeing where it takes her, trying to stay ahead of the riders behind. If she can close the gap on Sanchez, she will do so, but she's just basically going to be finding her. And that's the right tactic. Lord with a relatively slow cadence is more of a grind going up this section. 13%. If you can call 56 revs a minute grinding, compared to Pierce, who's doing like 80, a 10% slope. So different styles, and again, different heart rate. You have to try and complete a picture when you see different riders, because you don't always know the weight. Sometimes you'll get figures on screen and you can get the weight, and like we do in the ZMS streams. And I've learnt a lot from my commentating on the ZMS, because Damon was able to pull up a lot of rider data for me. And what I did was I made paper notes as we were going along. So I was scribbling down every time we got a rider on screen where it showed his details. And then I can combine that data with watching those riders in different events and this lot, or in, as we've got here, in different sections of the tour. Anybody talking or saving breath, says Joe. Yeah, so it all adds to the picture that you build up, and the more time you spend, or the more time I spend commentating, and particularly on fabulous broadcasts like the ZMS, the more I'm learning and the more I'm able to speak authoritatively about the riders. Poor Leendo on the 15.8% slope here. I mean, that just 15.9. See whether it goes over 60. Tops out. But I think that worse to come. Poor fella. and I wanted to ride this tour. No way I could have done, given my current status of health. But and here we go. Hey, look at this. Let's swing the camera. So it's not the catch I expected. I really expected Timo to catch Sonderg, but it's actually Timo's teammate, Cervello, caught him. And Timo is actually settling in behind, I think. So he's left his teammate Cervello to do the catch. They're going up this very steep hairpin section. So it looks now like it could be what we got, 11. Oh, there's still so much distance. So, I mean, I was going to say it looks like it might be a 1-2, but I'm not putting Timo out of it. He's only 100 meters behind. And there's enough climbing left, put it that way. And enough downhill for that matter. If you're a slightly heavier rider, you're going to do well on that downhill. So, this is a strong performance from Sonderg. Let's check up and see what's happening to Timo. There he is. Third place, 100 meters behind. So, Taylor's out. 180 meters. Don't see him getting back to Timo now. Never say never. Could happen, but I don't think so. Don't know how far Daniel is to Taylor, so we can have a look. Can't see the road, can I? Mind you, he's just gone round it. Just watch him round this hairpin. See whether we can see the rider in front. 170 meters, so possibly not. Too many twists turns. Riders in. Watch Sonderg through the trees. Bello is once again sticking with him, not letting him go. I think it's fair to say Timo is joining the two. I wonder why Daniel is wearing the Stages jersey and not the OTR though. He's a Masters rider, that's what the M means. But why is he choosing not to wear the OTR jersey? Could ask him. Probably owns a Stages power meter. So we're 46 minutes in, folks, and some of these riders, you know, in fact, let's check. We've got 10.5 kilometers to go, so we're about we're not even 2/3 through the ride yet. So I don't see the fastest times from Daniel Schock and Wouter Klaas that were set earlier this morning being beaten, to be honest. in this running of the race. So I think Daniel Shock is still going to be the leader going into tonight's stage, which is 1800 hours GMT, or 7 o'clock PM, 1900 hours CET my time. So yeah, 10 kilometers to go for these fellas. But what we got? Let's go. Let's work his way quickly down field, because I am going to try and hang around. Saying try, I should be able to hang around now for all the riders coming in. So let's see what the difference is between the first rider and the last rider. 10 kilometers for the leaders to do, and see Merlot and Hayes riding together with a rider just in front of them, which is Paul Podell. Mike. Unum. Yeah, Go. But you can see what I mean about the trees, can't you, folks? You know, it does get difficult without swinging the camera around. Well, sometimes, as I'm panning down through the riders, they're obscured by the trees on the course, because obviously the camera views are different. So I do find this particular spin pretty difficult, but you know, it's a challenge. We watched the Lantern Room Liendo. Now, Liendo is a good distance behind. So we had 10 kilometers and there'll be more like 9 now. And we got Liendo is like, he's going to be 8 kilometers behind the leaders. Have a look there, we got 9.7. So give or take 8 kilometers difference, which is pretty significant. And so there's going to be a large time gap between these fellows coming in at the front. And as I'm talking, I've just realised that Cervelo has taken the lead. That's my alarm going off, folks. So you can see that I did try to get it right this time. Getting the alarms to go off. But therein lies the difference. Why sometimes it's really, really difficult for me. Why I'm hoping that they'll take away this 30-minute restriction. Because today I had plenty of time. Well, I'm saying plenty of time, not plenty, but I had time to prepare the broadcast and time to set everything up the way I wanted it, and even do my little bit at the start. Whereas yesterday, because it was St. Martin's Day here in the Netherlands, which is basically it's like where all the kids and everybody else go out and sing carols and get sweets. We had to sort the children out. We had to you know we had to basically get everything ready for what is here in the Netherlands a very, very important day. It's like Christmas Day for the Dutch, and so I completely forgot to set the alarms. Just through lack of time. I was rushing right up until the last minute. And that's the difference. And that's why, yes, it's fantastic saying, well, put a message on your screen, but that's not the full story. Sometimes just so time strapped. And I genuinely think, as now a regular commentator, and I want to do more and will do more if if a little bit of leeway is thrown my way and they remove this 30-minute restriction, so that I don't have to worry about it and I can I can concentrate on broadcasting and not on jumping on the bike. Seems a bit of a nonsense. This surprises me. I didn't peg Savello to be the one to take the stage win today, I have to say. But full kudos to the man. And it does look like if he gets to the top of the hill with a decent enough gap, he needs more than 30 metres, I have to say. But if he gets to the top of this hill mountain with a decent gap, then that downhill is so steep that he could well not be caught. But I think he's going to need more than, currently got 40 and it's growing. So I think he needs about 100 metres in order to make this stick. Sonderg is going to work really hard to make sure he doesn't get that. So we'll see what happens. We'll come back to this battle as we watch Sonderg pushing in. You know, they're both matching each other's watts at the moment. So let's see what happens. Watch Timo Achem. Can't see Timo getting back into it. But never say never. The downhill can change a lot of things because it's long enough and steep enough and fast enough for a rider that's good at descending to make up a little bit of time. See what happens there. And then the minor places, I mean, Taylor's not going to influence the top three. Can't see him closing that gap. Again, never say never, but I think Taylor's looking at holding on to fourth place here. Daniel not too far behind him, so 200 metres. There's possibilities there. We just don't know what's going to happen on that downhill. It's going to favour the slightly stockier, bigger, stronger riders, but a good descender as well. Somebody who's capable of pushing out high watts while going downhill. You don't necessarily have to be heavy to do that. You can do that even as a lighter rider. Could well do well in this downhill and pick up places. So we'll see. What I'm going to do is when the riders do hit the top of the climb, I'm going to stick with the riders going down the downhills because that's where the action is going to be and that's where the excitement is going to be. Obviously, I work my way like I'm doing now through the field, but I think we need to keep a close eye on the riders cresting this mountain because it's going to be quite important as we watch Hayes catching Pudell. And is Paul now just resigned to where he is on GC and turning his legs over, or is he going to have a battle with Hayes? Who looks the stronger rider of the two, I have to say, at this moment. Well, that he's 100 metres behind. So. Mike's got him in his sights, so there's no reason why he can't close up this gap. But I was more or less, I won't say I was right, but I was more or less correct when I stated that this climb was long enough and steep enough to sort of like put gaps between the riders, and that's exactly what it's done all the way down the field. You know, Yes, obviously you've got a couple of riders like these two coming together at times, but Potter looks like he's got the better of Sanchez at the moment. He's putting in more watts and leaving him behind. Good riding, Potter. 3 watt kilos. Sanchez just being distant slightly. Then you've got Joe putting out 3 watt kilos. 10% section. Lord. And then as you get towards these folks at the back of the field, they're just wanting it to be over. They're just wanting to finish. With a good result, but they're just wanting to get it over. I have nothing but respect for these riders that have ridden this. Because, like I say, this is without a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt, the hardest tour we've had on our GP in terms of meters climbed, day after day. There hasn't been an easier stage. Even the 10 kilometer short stage was like a time trial, an uphill time trial. So, and then Lantern Rouge, Mr. Leandro. Okay, let's find out what's happening back at the front as they are nearing the top of the climb. Look, so we got Cervelo, and he's got the gap I said he needed. He's got 200 meters. Now, I personally think he's got this. I think it's his to lose now, because it's going to be a little while before go there. You see, Sonderg is not yet at the top, and so the gap is going to grow out to about 500 meters before Sonderg actually closes on the summit. And yes, he may well pick up a few meters once he goes over the top, but by that time, Cervelo is going to be, well, even more than 500. He's already almost 700 meters in front, and Sonderg hasn't crested yet. Just about to do so. So there you go. Sonderg has crested at 780 meters. So Cervelo has got like an 800-meter gap. Not really having to work for it at this stage. He's just, and look at the wattage he's putting in going downhill. Now this is a masterclass because trust me, I've been there, and to try and put out 4 watt kilos on a downhill is pretty difficult. So yeah, in fact they're both putting in big wattage on the down. But Sonderg is maintaining his gap, 740 meters. So we'll keep an eye on that. But let's just go back to see who else is cresting or who else is coming up. And you see, Achem Timo is out of it now because he hasn't even crested and he's already 2 kilometers behind the leader Cervelo. So it's all over for Timo. He realizes he's not going to catch the guys in front. Pretty sure he'll realize that. Cervelo is still absolutely motoring like he's on a motorbike, 78, 79 kilometers an hour. So he's not going to get caught. Almost 850 meters in front of Sonderg. I don't see that gap being closed. He can afford to lose a few hundred meters and still have enough left. So we watch Sonderg again putting in big wattage on the downhill. Timo on the downhill now. What kind of wattage can he perform? Have a look. You see the difference. I think Timo has realised that he's on a hiding to nothing here. He's not going to catch the riders in front, so he's not working as hard as the guys in front of him because he's probably thinking, what's the point in throwing out 4 watt kilos on the downhill? I'm not going to catch them. So you can see he's not actually doing that. He slows down as we go around the turns, obviously. but even his maximum watt kilos is nowhere near what you saw the other two guys put out and are still putting out. You know, they're putting in mid fours. Timo's putting in low threes. So he's probably accepted that as we watch Taylor hasn't yet crested either. So Taylor's a fair way from the crest actually. Go back to the action. Cervelo still motoring on the downhill and still holding an 800-meter gap. So this is going to be a winning run, folks. It's not going to get caught. Although, to be fair to this lad, Sonderg, he's put in a good effort to try. I just wish he'd fix his heart rate monitor. If you're listening to me, Niels, get it sorted, mate. Because that, that can speak towards your reputation. Timo, putting in a good effort. Sonderg going into the red. The lad is really trying. Let's go back to them. Let's see. But it's still, look, the gap has grown, in fact. So he's still not matching Cervelo out front of him. And they're coming to the key part of the descent now. Is like the last quarter. But I don't see him pulling back the gap. But full kudos to the man for trying. Let's find out what's happening with the riders getting ready to crest. Taylor's now crested and he's on his way. So, and we've got Daniel. Daniel's almost at the top as well. Just see from the graphic in the top right. He's almost at the top of the climb. But there's no riders really. Daniel's got 100 meters on grey, so that's going to grow to again about 500 meters by the time grey crests. There's no riders really close to each other, with the exception of Paul Pudell and I think it's Chris Hayes. They're the only two that are sort of like within touching distance in terms of catching each other on the downhill. Daniel's not going to catch any because he's too far behind. He will stay away from Gray because, as I said, Gray hasn't crested yet. So by the time he does, yeah, Daniel's like 350, almost 400 meters in front. So he's not going to close that gap either. Let's go back to the front because it's getting close to the finish now. And here we go. Cervelo coming into the finish with a great ride. Well done, Cervelo. And 105.14. So, in fact, on that downhill, he's actually taken the lead. They've taken over the lead of the race. Of course, I didn't factor that in, the fact that they'd pull out so much time on this downhill when I was looking at the times earlier. So, fantastic ride. Well done. That's the fastest time of the day, folks. 105. We watch. See if I can just get through the trees. Keep zooming in. There we go. Zooming in help. A little bit. Really, really difficult with the trees as he goes under the banner. There we go. Just caught him going under the banner. Next rider. Timo. Better view from the overhead, like, because of the trees. Get round at the last minute. Just coming up to the, it should just be approaching the Flamme Rouge any moment now. Very difficult when it's tight and twisty like this with the trees, actually seeing the features. I mean, there you can see the red banner, the Flamme Rouge. 1 kilometre to go. Dives under it. It's still going downhill at 11%. So, I mean, it only really flattens out in the last few hundred meters. If few hundred, I mean, we go. Twists and turns into the finish. no real catches on the descent. Although we've got Pudell and Hayes that look like they're close together, but obviously I want to be fair and show the riders coming into the finish. So we'll catch up with Pudell and Hayes and see who wins that particular battle. The neck and neck, they're both showing a metre between them at the moment as we watch Timo coming in. Taylor's got 2.9 kilometres, so we can actually go back to this battle behind this battle. And this is where the excitement is. Because these two... Now, who's your money on out of these two, folks? Well done, Paul, for sticking with it, mate. I think it's fair to say Paul will be the lighter of these two, which is why he's drafting and why he's staying on the wheel. Because I think he'd struggle if he was on the front trying to pull this one along. So his aim will be to stay with Hayes and then probably take him in the sprint. Good tactics, especially if I do this a lot. I'm ultra lightweight rider, and there's no way I can pull riders along on the front. So I tend to wheel suck and then try and jump them at the end. Doesn't work usually because I'm just not strong enough. I'm not a sprinter, but it's worked a couple of times. Yeah, this is my tactic: sit on a wheel. And I get told off for it sometimes, called a wheel sucker, but I don't care. Everything's game in racing. But sorry, you two, I better head back to the front and just see how far we've got. We've got Taylor with 1.3 kilometres to go. We got anybody? No, we've got, that's right. Taylor's the next rider to come in. So I don't want to miss the riders coming in, folks. So that's why I'm flicking backwards and forwards. Even though it would be exciting to stay with Paul and Hayes. We go 1 kilometre to go, Flamme Rouge. This has been a good race. I've enjoyed this, and I didn't expect it to be fastest time when they were sort of like, halfway up that mountain. It looked like they weren't going to get close, but then they've gone down that mountain at such a speed. And pulled back hunks of time. So bear that in mind tonight, folks, when you're watching the action in the final running tonight. Don't take any credence from where the riders are when they're on that big hill, because they'll make up heaps of time on this downhill, as these riders have proved. I didn't think they'd get even close to 106, and they've basically knocked a minute off it. So that's pretty impressive as we watch Taylor coming in. And then we've got Gray behind. He's about 600 metres behind his Gray. So we'll just flick to him. Oh, and he's got Daniel fighting for a place with him. So here we go. This is going to be a sprint. So we get 2 races within a race. Here we go. Who's your money on here, folks? I'm going to go for Daniel, the OTR rider. Obviously, he's my teammate. Come on, Daniel. Come on. Big sprint. No, he's lost it. He's lost it. I say, yeah, he lost it. Okay. As we watch Steve Miller from Southern District Wheelers. Finally, you've got. Okay, Paul. So you see what I mean about battles within battles, folks, and why, sometimes the action lower down the field can be more exciting than what's happening at the front. And we found that even with the big hitters, with Daniel and John Beams fighting it out at the front. Once their battle has been sort of like won and over, the real excitement happened lower down the field. Steve's just about to cross the line. There we go. Let's go to the, and this is, I said they'd be together, and here they are. 2.3 kilometres to go. Paul's canny enough to stay with Hayes. Let's see what happens. And you can see he's not putting in any effort here. He's just freewheeling on this fast downhill. And even Hayes is not real, he's just spinning the pedals. So both of them are being very canny here and saving their energy. Neither of them is really putting in big effort here at the moment. So, they've already put in the effort climbing the climb. On this downhill, they're just spinning the pedals. 2 kilos is nothing to them. So let's see what happens. I have to say, Paul, I do think if you if you go all the way to the line with Hayes, I think he'll take you in the sprint because he's the bigger rider. So let's see whether you can get the better of him tactically by jumping from his wheel. What I would try to do. Stay on his wheel right up to the last, what, about 90 meters, then just hit it. That's obviously on his mind. I'm not saying he'll choose 90 meters. That's just my third distance. Let's see what he does. Oh no, he's gone to the front. No, I can't. I think Hayes has pulled a fast one on you, sir. I think he's going to come past you. Really do. Yeah, there he goes. Now, can Hayes hold it? Oh, yeah, he'll be favourite here, surely. Second wheel going. No. Oh, it looks like Paul took it. Well done. Very well done. As we watch Murloc coming into the finish, 200 meters to go. Well done, Paul. Well done, Murloc. Yep. Here we go. Here's Mike. Great racing. There we go. Well done. Ryder Newnham on the road, 2.7 kilometers to go. So we've a little bit of time. So I'm going to send a couple of congratulating messages. Now, do I need to jump up back on the bike again? I'm going to do so because I don't want to get kicked out. Back on the bike, turn the pedals, don't get kicked out in the very end of the race. Should see me right for another 30 minutes. Okay, so what we got, 1.4 kilometers for Newnham. I need a cup of tea. Again, as he comes into the 1 kilometer to go, Flamu. So this has been good racing from the guys and girls. Really good racing. Now, I'm not going to be able to watch live tonight's race. I'm busy once again with family duties. So what I will do is I will catch the ZMS stream and watch it later. So I'm hoping I don't find out from Facebook or anywhere. I'll try and stay off and not find out the result until I'm able to watch it recorded live. But it should be exciting tonight. Will be interesting to see whether John Beams goes for another win. Going to Suhad, who's got 4.3 kilometers. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see whether Beamsy goes for another win. We know he likes to win, or whether he just takes a victory lap, lets somebody else have the win. It's been a good tour. Don't forget to hit the like button on the video, please, folks. And if you're not a subscriber, please consider subscribing. It'll definitely help. And yes, I will meet you at the Tour de Monde, Mr. Newnham. I'm covering that. In fact, that's one of the big events for me. I'll put in a lot of preparation for that tour. And hopefully I'll have my full automated system up and running. So I don't think there are going to be any more mini battles happening. I could be wrong. Well, there's a few riders close to each other, but probably not any more mini battles. Mini battles happening now. I can see that positions have changed, and it looks like riders towards the back end of the field have changed round positions as well. So could be an interesting battle lower down the field as we're coming into the finish. I mean, Joey's putting in some big wattage here. She'll be trying to close up on Sanchez in front of her. We'll get to her in a minute. In fact, far enough away from the finish with riders. Suhad to just flick through the field. There's Sanchez. So he's what? 4.7 kilometers and 5, so about 600 meters between these two. Yeah, tough ask. Back to Anne. Too hard, sorry. There we go. As he approaches the 1 kilometer to go banner. I mean, this is a very fast downhill, so I can't spend too much time away from the rider I'm watching because they're finishing so quickly. I hope I haven't missed anybody. I don't think I have. I think I've got every rider. So how many of you are going to be watching tonight's broadcast by ZMS? I think Dave is doing the commentary again tonight. Like I say, I'm going to record it and then watch it later on. We watched Suhad giving us a wave over the line, and then Potter 2 kilometers on the hill. Won't be long before coming in as well. Sounds like Natasha, my daughter's home with mum. But they'll be going back out very shortly because they have to go and pick up my youngest, Charlotte. So you might be able to hear a little bit of background noise. It's an exciting time here in the Netherlands. This time, like I say, they have this day called Saint Martin. Uh, all the children dress up and go out with lanterns and singing and collecting sweets. We had a huge bucket of sweets to give away to the children last. So actually being kicked out of the event ended up not being a bad thing because I was able to join the children, uh, join in some of the festivities. It worked out quite well, but it's not what I planned. I mean, I was distraught. I'll be honest. I was supposed to cover the whole of the event. I was pretty upset, but we've covered that topic. Last 100 meters, round the hairpin, 100-meter sign, and over the line. Well done, Potter. Good ride. Sanchez in under the Flamme Rouge and the 800-meter banner. I like this countdown that they've 750 that they've got going. I think this is a really cool feature added to this the finishers, where the banners at the side of the road count down the distance. A bit difficult to see with all these trees, but they are there when you get them in camera shot. I mean, I'm deliberately not trying to spin the camera around here because I'll probably lose sight of the riders. Just too difficult, twisting, rolling course. So I'm just leaving the overhead shot to show the riders coming in so that I don't miss them. There you can see 100-meter, 50, 75, 50, 25 over the line. We watched Joe coming in. This has been, and look at that wattage. This has been an amazing ride. Again, and the only shame is that she was the only lady today. I really like to see more ladies battling it out. There we go, over the line. Well done, Joe. Got Claude. The M stands for Masters. Claude races in the Masters category. But he's got still got 5 kilometers to go, but it won't take him very long on this deep down time. So, I mean, I looked at the distance between first finisher and last, and thought, oh, I'm going to be here for quite a while. But the truth is, with such a fast downhill, they cover this distance pretty quick order. Although the winners have probably gone home, been showered, and had the dinner by now, having finished some 20 minutes ago. But I find it nice to watch every rider come. I like to do that. I asked Damon, could we do it on his broadcast? Damon gladly agreed. I think he now does that with most of his broadcasts. Stays with the action right until the last rider has come. And I think that's only right because the riders at the back of the field deserve just as much attention as the riders pushing off the front. What makes the tour and what it is, not just about one that's winning, about the battles and the efforts that go on behind. Particularly the midfield battles can be very, very exciting. See from the text, just saying thanks for the message of support is wrecked. Oh yeah, after days like today, that's hard racing. So what we got? We got Claude to come in, Pierce. Oh, so 3 more riders. This one on the road now, and then two following on. We're not going to have to wait long now, because Paul is the last rider on the road, and he's about 2.8 kilometers behind. Like I say, on the downhill, he'll cover that in no time. So then we'll wrap up the broadcast, and don't forget we've got the highlight show tomorrow, where we'll go through all the news of what's happened in the tour. We'll be doing the prize draw for the £252. That's any one of the 25 riders that have completed every stage could win that. So, and it might even get added to that prize, might even get added to before we do the draw tomorrow. So looking forward to that. That's going to be live on air, and we'll have a news show and a highlight show all in one tomorrow. I need to do a lot of preparation for it, but I'll start working on that later on. Make sure we're well prepared. Because there's no live action going to be taking part, it shouldn't be too stressful. Into this last final hairpin. And then turn the corner. Here we go. Bean into the hairpin. That's a nice finish, actually. That's the first time I think we've seen the riders having an easier finish in this tour. Call it an easier finish. Let's go to the rider behind, Pierce. 500 meters. Yeah, this is by far the easiest finish of the whole tour. So be down in a moment. Yeah, I'm just finishing off the tour now. It's nearly finished. Yeah, be there in a minute. Yeah, I'll be there in a minute. So you can hear my family duties are calling. Ilka has to leave and pick up the youngest daughter, so I have to get downstairs shortly. But I am just going to hang on until Paul comes into the line. So here we go. Last rider on the road. Almost finished. 1.5 kilometers to go, but at this speed, should be there in about a minute. But then, folks, I'm going to have to dash off. So I'll leave you with the finishing screen. The thanks for watching. Please hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Here we go. As you can see, the rider goes in over the line. Okay, let's transition across, and thanks everybody for watching. Stay safe, and we'll catch up with you all tomorrow.